na CEMSE musumo komani mu
amen
na boko de
bokomini announce ya
anyame adom ye ho ye anyame adom ye new energy minister ya wo bay say ECG a strategic asset na any efficient a boka inti o say omodwene ho no mo hekwan mo de ne befa so when really out privatization it's one of the things some be consider. Of course the first time I can ECG in relation to privatization imze fi rollins mere so kra nkomo sha ase je ku form mere so nkomo sha eto aso we haven't been able to privatize ECG. The last attempt was the PDS matter a whole scandal by first of all will general disposition towards this privatization again as a think tank who that whole concept is saying
that's me yeah. I think me tie now can for other branch be the same
Oliver Bakavamo.
I think this is one of the reasons why CEMSE said before we go into privatization we need a certain perception survey,
okay,
or a very social impact assessment of people's views on the privatization and its consequential effects.
Okay,
because people have a lot of varying interests and reasons why they think that privatization is not the way. But as technical persons in the industry, industry no yakawum, yenim jumadia ECG dino. We think that privatization will be the best option if you want to sustain our supply of electricity. Now, what can I say?
Okay.
PUWC. Also, mujai blackmail. No, I think they.
What is blackmail?
Yeah, I think they need to stop some of these blackmails.
Is it not rather an opposition almost?
No, see, anytime a buying per se or say private hands and a private equity and a private capital, we buy into an organization to instill certain discipline. Then these guys are more illicit activities. Illicit activities are these state-owned institutions. MIA realize it, profit also realize it. MIA book kakesi, they come out and say, "Oh, yentiasi."
The very workers. The very workers. And also, who are alleged some illicit?
No, it is there. No allegations.
Really?
They are there. It takes you more than a month for you to get a meter. Almost some meter, mommy. The meter, almost some meter, mommy. It took me 3 months for me to get a meter. When I even got the meter, I had to pay before I got the meter. Yes, some of these guys, they even go into negotiations with customers, right? Only customers, no negotiation. Yeah, trading off. Aka so scan ko so the ma central government and so the ma ECG no o the ma ECG some even temper with meter and reduce meter reading so that people will benefit out of some of these things. Now you pay private hands above you guys start blackmailing NTS. I think they need to stop that. If our mining is serious. Now back to reasons why CEMSE support privatization.
And Tibere say more private interest into no more pussy privatization.
That is it.
Because a private man won't allow Sanema way to go.
No, that they no correct. And if you say, we have so do ECG, also do ECG BB. Now we share 2022, right? ECG, a boka. There may be justified reasons, especially UTA, Dobek and others, or Moambeka say forest losses, which sometimes we think that entirely true. ECG boka 8 billion in 2023, 2022, 2023.
8 billion.
In 2022, $8 billion. Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedis, okay.
In 2023, we bought $6 billion. You guys were there. The workers were there. They were part of the reasons why it made this net losses. Why didn't they bring the paper out? Why didn't they state a position on why ECG made those losses? I didn't know one kasa. I didn't what make you consistently. Even 2024, but 2024 is a report bar. Still, they would have made certain losses. I didn't know one kasa. And so the problem is that they should not be blackmailing anybody. We want the betterment of this particular organization. And say a person organization is CER. It was a personal organization BCA. And one of the reasons is also working somewhere. There's redundancy.
They bring here.
Now,
say over the years, ECG crowd privatize aspects of the operations. Wafa contractors in the idea, To some extent,
but still, you compare ECG as a disco distribution company. Ajuma. Now ECG has one employee to NIPA 500 customers. Netco also has about the same, one employee to NIPA 500. Now only to two other jurisdictions like Latin America, almost operating certain discos here, more 1 person to 3,000.
Yeah.
We call Turkey 1 person to 10,000.
Okay.
So even Africa, we have a lot of countries doing 1 person to 1,000 plus or 2,000.
Okay.
Now ECG 1 person to NIPA 500. Yet NIPA 500 require 1 person to know service, quality service. That means that so there's that redundancy there because and you can even trace that through their general and administrative expenditure. We take key Auditor General's report, I think 2023, recent one release here. General and administrative expenditure increased by about 33%.
Okay.
So a company that is making losses, right, we're making net loss. Now general and administrative expenditure increased by 33%. Then increases so your workers are not doing or my one. Why should you increase your general administrative expenditure?
But privatization fix that problem because it's a matter of management and leadership. So when you're an MD and a board chair, when you bring some person will transform ECG, problems here okay, so bit me fixing easily.
It is going to be very problematic in terms of so bit me fixing in the sense that government is liquidity constraint. Abai Niska. And Abai Niska no say Abribiano Abai injected almost 15 to 20 billion Ghana cedis within the budget, which is a shortfall to support the power sector. And so government agreeing say, I'm just in the minds of government, say government agreeing say make allocation of a shortfall of about 20 billion in the budget to ECG no. I think if a private person comes in now injected that liquidity and as a capital now.
Okay. That
is one of the reasons. Another reason I think that government thinks that privatization will help is also political interference.
Okay.
No question because you bring a good board, you bring a good MD. But because of the politics, any political culture is here, no. The big, because I need the big and why Ashanti regional somewhere. There was a time my ECG worker me.
Ashanti regional manager. I track KTU for one more lighting. Ashanti regional minister can say Obama police. In fact, my police watching.
You see?
My police watching.
Okay, so this government also realizes that because of the politics, any politicians, it was to me be brilliant, So you can say you're no politician, no, and could run ECG. Oh, to me running so that interference, you want to be running in say sad I am not crank because I'm crank no only music bishim. And music no the bishim no a do a fina of dividends. This all talk and one tia of motia. One talk and na 1 year of 1 year. And I'm crank no a very efficient way of managing ECG. Until administrative expenditure equals 33%, a bra or bocano. On Penima administrative expenditure on Cosrosa.
The first possible reason to buying is to say privatization beboa. As you mentioned, so a buying has to make about 15 billion allocation to ECG. I want a budget. So 15 billion no say anka etwa routes are abanda dan reja anka betimi aboama ebe easy traffic and all of that. Abayin timi nya seska no private man and funny sika momu ma machine. But ECG no is it so attractive to say a private man ready say obe put in that match at the same time a kakese daho. I am wondering Abayin kase 15 billion minya private man emra abayin hunto no ECG so de kakese daho. Abayin can't run away from that. Intimibusa say is ECG that attractive obi aye ready so be fa abayin sa abayin cost no na abayin timi de says kana ko be before.
So first of all I think the whole privatization story no every the World Bank and MCCA MCA argument and say send your ECG boy cabribiano ma you lose certain revenues, and my power sector and you're very stable. And at that time, they were even willing to inject some capital. Okay. PDS, non-person injected capital be the power sector. No? So I think government proposition is
and ambassador
So government proposition is say you consider privatization. One of the reasons be an efficiency, and effectiveness of ECG to mean to impono also obsolete infrastructure.
Okay.
Or more systems the distribution system no do na ache transformers no do na ache. Sometimes it causes a lot of localized faults. You need to upgrade this transformer and I say even modernize it or even change it. You hear ska this will mean ska and they say you need ankra no come no or no cra but no take one aspect of it. At least you can get some of these funds from some of these multilaterals or multinational organizations to also support the upgrade of the infrastructure. It may be one of the reasons in here buying air say you privatize ya a beboa amaya injected. Now the attractiveness, I think ECG is very attractive.
Really?
It's very attractive.
It's part of the mountain debt.
Yes, it is very attractive. It has a lot of assets.
Or they almost IPP be a cow.
Oh, now say IPP go. ECG last 2023, the liabilities was 47 billion Ghana cedis.
And we say attractive.
It is because it also has assets which can recover that Sikano. You just need the management because we'll make it profit there. Even in 2020 it was an outlier. You made profit. Until so we make it profit. Or was one capacity to make profit, or was ability to make profit because capacity in terms of resources or assets you just need the ability in the leadership and the leadership in this sense is what the politicians are saying that because of say you be a who for the right ability to utilize the capacity, which is the asset side, for us to make the money. In this idea, young politicians, no the man now, not this ability, which is technical efficiency, managerial efficiency, operational efficiency, financial efficiency, or the bepa. I'm ECG when efficiency is too positive, it benefits the user. Nana Yakobabi, she's an experienced person in this industry.
Nana Janto, I mean.
Yes, experienced person in this industry. I know what she said. The moment private sector will calculate the cost of service because on no private person obeying Sikana obeying real time tariff and not billing because on no factor in depreciation of the currency inflation at any time to cost the tariff and I said to bill you. But obey sir. Now say at the end of the day, ultimately reduce technical and commercial losses or distribution losses, which are around 37% today. Ultimately reduce it by even 7%. By upgrading the infrastructure, meaning you bit more forced to say anti-bonus, so because you must have a good regulator.
But they're not. Then that's also another matter. A good regulator.
Yeah, you need a good regulator because one thing is that 2024 third quarter tariff adjustment (PRC). Nanka was say or increase tariff I think by about 10% or so, but or relax 5%.
Okay.
The reason why relax 5% is also so two Ukraine is in Jisikano. So also relax it into one for the 2 years because I say or two Ukraine the pressure 2 years so
no I want to be
oversize can instead of some matem or the 5 in the buy no train 5.
Okay.
So 100% channel. So it's a private person ba not only to me Jisika na can now to boost the system very integrity tests are run, system is very robust to ensure effectiveness and efficiency. Now
you trouble and then cry.
And then aboard the cry, but at the long run, efficiency helps to reduce tariff.
Over a period. But then instant. I don't have public interest now. I mean, the expectation is that I was a electricity bill a coffin.
Yeah,
the air politics. How does that conversation survive in the midst of silence?
That's electricity bill coffin.
No,
if you look at the data carefully, power prices have become very cheaper in recent times compared to previously.
How long?
Even I think it peaked in 2023, but it used to be cheaper because in 2016, not power, they turned 82 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
Right?
And then they turned
to 79. In 2022, 75. It came back to 79 in 2023. And in dollar terms, it's 12 cents per kilowatt hour. I think Majapoku Pempe, former Minister of Power, Kokani Babi, energy Kokani Babi, more time, no Kanya Subwati. And that is what the data is saying. But also interest can you also attend na Ghana for and feel the other side of it. Ghana for also things that
but it appears can you also but it appears the impact is insignificant.
Yeah, very insignificant for the consumer because of other inflationary factors. How we compute some of these things. Maybe at the MPC become
a private man or obefa ECG debt. Who will take on ECG's debt? It may also be pushed by government.
No, you say no on the book, but I believe that if a private person is coming in, the liabilities and the assets must all be borne by the private person because I would jump on there. So when you say the assets now, liabilities also to me a big home. So when to me do one grana, also the liabilities no become because one say ya nyane saswa ninya you work also ahwe Esla can still fund some of these liabilities in the long run because liabilities are not coming in again. The reason why Esla to me services some of these liabilities is because they are recurrent. Because of the BR. But say I buying any free money. Not all the share dia bibi CEMSE bibi dia. No recurring liabilities. Inti sikaka clear why be free Esla no. Through the energy debt recovery levy no. You bit more pushing to service these liabilities in the long run. Ama yet make try can. That is what I mean. We can do that. Apart from that, we can even fall on certain contingency funds in the consolidated fund, right, as well as stabilization fund to ensure that because stabilizing electricity is one critical way to boost a growth, industrial growth. And following the stabilization fund to also fund some of these excesses or liabilities, and something bad. Until what you know, private person now handle the assets part. But also to say it depends on agreement. But we have a partial privatization, which is a joint venture in a way, so that you see the profitability and so they yield certain dividends to us. As a state. And you can say did be a question and CEMSE. I was saying this share in some of 70-30 or 60-40 or any approach at the end of the day we must get dividends. Dividends limit me abwa.
Because I was coming to that. What form of privatization are more here for you experts in the sector? No, what should be the vehicle? Niche and in your day a day in Fasobe Bregana. Any full privatization of ECG and I say. You be privatize some departments like the revenue collection. And now say operations.
So there are debate market in various angles depending on the dynamics and the systems you want to put in place. But the debate market say any private person will take equity and also be only ECG must be a Ghanaian. We have to critically look at that. Yes, we have to. We Ghanaians do have the capacity. If we do have the resources, we have the capital. It was a Ghanaian.
But what can you say? It appears it be the floodgates for amount for Ghanaians to only front and appear to be the only Ghanaian component. But one can capacity will need be. In your course of PDS, that kind of people who were behind. That proposal I said on your gun and it exposes the whole deal to corruption. Because the capacity of the local person normally but the nationality so a gun and the only component. But in terms of the capacity, we don't really check on that.
We think Ghanaians don't have the capacity. We do.
Are you sure?
We do. But the American said the process must be very participatory. The process must be very inclusive. The process must be very transparent. Right? And there must be that information flow to Ghana for. Ghana will see steps in a process no. Step by step you ubia. Companies are more busy. Companies are based on partner buying. They will see who and then proper profiling, due diligence.
Must that Ghanaian have a track record in the sector?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I believe that the Ghanaian must have the capacity to
how would you define capacity?
Financial capacity, liquidity, or capital.
How about technical?
Technical, who's ska? They BBTA. I only bossy. Who's ka to behind the best. Right. They say any pana or sasikano. I'll be to me somewhere. Obit me approach the best and I recruit the best to give us that particular efficiency. I was a Ghanaian because one thing is I say abrofuno too much. It is likely also going to cause a problem for us because ECG the profitability sometimes say they are huge profits or realizing. Now so realizing huge profits. Now say Afibiano, you converted these profits into dollars. Say they fly out, and you see a major problem because at the end of the day, to put pressure on your CD maybe in January or first quarter of every year because Kano air common. So you have to critically look at that who becomes a partner. Now, if you say you or Ghanaian, Madika Kabako say was any panel the capacity in terms of financial Oscar. You will say Oscar. Now, apart from so Oscar, you will say why a Juma kakra space in energy sector ni kakra and also be a why Juma be a how what you manage it because one thing is a young person who can come be on so bad say no crash in Vodafone fufuyi was here who say nipa no aye adwuma na why ni years because Japan track record no ho afi ye hu ni say we me ya say hu nipa no wona ono be adwuma we have look at that. That is through maybe the joint venture, the two total concession. The money panels already. Now where they say you say line say the move be so on so that's a partnership never require. You have to also look at the kind of partnership I say because I've always said that partnership are still abiding 70% shareholder and a good partnership. It is not a private partnership because still I abide there, and there are some companies in Ghana here or more. Over state ownership reporter or more that's why a buy company until a big to realize a profit, even though we call them PPP or joint venture. Or that's why a buy company a buy majority shares. And because of some a buy majority stake in Minia, decisions are still politics now side boom. And my own for decision about buying. Wow. So you have to look at if you are going to do a PPP, then it means that government shares of that PPP right? Now other players, maybe 3 or 4 concessionaires or private partners on the partner so that a decision at any time a better kesiasi abide.
So but to the extent that ECG is a strategic asset, a national security asset, buying having a small voice, dangerous.
It is not. What is a national asset? What is a strategic asset? We have toys a national asset, but today is in serious agu, right? Intimania, Obetina Hama national assets, say national go. No, we don't do it that way.
Let me try and unpack baby I'll say a local component in the back one. One you say I was say over the capacity and only a financial capacity. Also was scanners. Two I was say Otimichre say a jumano unim neniso. Why you be paying? Yeah, the man o mami gu a juma fama. And I think say the third one
the
technical expertise experts
there should be a plan.
Okay, but now let me pick it. First one, they say you have no doubt to say conform what the financial capacity. Is it possible say a consortium of banks a bit me abba together say that capital injection into ECG and a very good way to look?
Yes. Oh, I think that local banks meet me right at a certain time crisis some of the banks assisted. Right. For example, tolls for some time, some GCB had to come into the aid of toll to make sure that toll revives itself. The banks need to me Nti say they can manage ECG, manage it well for us to get that particular dividends here. But the mechanism banks no crash any more. Say banks because most of these universal banks are not even Ghanaian based own banks. They are foreign banks. Now asakodi obiho and it's not a problem. So say a foreign based bank local banker, I think it will help us, and they must begin to bring their liquidity together. Banks, right? Or merge liquidity, be capital. We say, okay, maybe 3 of us or 4 of us want to take ECG and run it and ensure that in the running, every yield certain dividends to us.
Because now make my dream say, I mean, local person here, banks here, no sakwa bobe sinfio war. And the babe share ECG. So if the banks can come together, no crab ensure high efficiency because of the way Omankasa running on books in your musica semono. But the second leg is the track record. It will be.
I think you will be because most of these bank in Equa, you will be because most of these banks also have these energy departments, right?
Okay.
Yes, most of the banks are more energy department that they handle some of these energy contracts and other issues. And so energy more, I don't think they'll bring you there to handle these offices. So they are also building, and because of the climate change and transition and other things, they are building what we call the environmental social governance structure of all these banks. And by issues of energy, they have that capacity or ability rather. By issues of climate change, they
can even assemble,
and they can even get us the best. They can even poach from the same ECG, right? Yes, ECG. Your problem with more workers Libya or more Canada, but your value-based workers is almost a mere Edinburgh or my Ghana. So you can even assemble from them and then use them for a greater good of the particular company I can was me. The banks should reconsider or consider some of these arrangements and then come on board. And even Ghanaians, meaning as a BB, also make me you have to own it. Earlier, I make us say even if you look at maybe listing it, but because of say a company consistently are making losses, won't be listing on Ghana Stock Exchange. Unqualified. This will be our
clear the
books. I inject them and I start here observing some profit be and sign a bit to me, Alice, and that will take time. Minister Nekana, it will take time. But the most critical part of this whole privatization is the process. If the process becomes bad, the outcome will also be bad. If the process is good, very inclusive, very transparent, the outcome will be good. Now, saving your interest.
Say just privatization with regards to collection or revenue collection. And limited your gains in terms of what's you realize at the end of the privatization. The question is, okay, so what if government take a decision say we're only privatizing revenue collection? Because I feel say one weaknesses in the war and in TMP will be no measure. How much gains any benya ebe realize it from the whole ECG institution and limiting?
So first of all privatizing retail, and I say Woton Kanyana, it means that you have to pay for the services of Nipana or privatize Yamano. And at the end of the day, Nipana also be a cost structure. Media free and sign out the Abreu. And I think that may not be a best approach. I think I've seen MPP Manifesto talking about retailing of the last end of distribution, that is sales of power. Retailing services be so better. That is one aspect. As to whether say Dipana wa retailing is outside Naman meeting mobilize Sikanusu in Namon is another thing. So when you mobilizing in Namoa, still you see a Kobaizina, so you cannot even get what you want. Now the last part of this whole retailing of that side, me say, well, Nipana or you retailer man inject some capital to boost systems ama yatima jiskadodo or you willing so no adi sika beshim say me jiskation na manya misika back from experience from some of these third party services or vendors enye sanity right in Ghana here the tool e binum aban ne san kosi tools no later ma jiska na ma dem pese nyam ko right but say na obi a ono ye de ma no na nipa na ka say okay condition ni ansana ubitima esika no fasika yeshim na ye hayi ansana yetima esika no back. I think that will be a best thing, but some of these guys are also afraid that oba be na esika no question kesia expectation na open no be na ankosisa onye esika back, so they also withdraw. Now lastly, I also think that retailing will not solve the problem, or maybe it's taking it to a third party, a third party, an vendor will not solve this problem of distribution losses. No, it is not going to do that. Because distribution losses basically it has to do with
people may invest in meters, a bit accurate reading. And solve our problem.
No, so
it's to be solve.
So will the fellow be ready or willing to invest? But fine, we might invest in metering, right? And quality meters. But the other part of it is that the whole system, Obesan transformers number one,
baby.
Obesan lines number one. So transformers lines, these outages, are some of the reasons why in the distribution you lose a lot of revenue. And so depending on your so best system no money be, and I say updating your money be there. Fine, but I don't think any private person will be interested in injecting certain capital to improve our infrastructure.
Interesting. 98.9 FM Pahwada Benjamin ni openia me ni di nkomo Benjamin Nsiah na ye the possible privatization of ECG and ni tuom pa what is really at stake nkomo na EDA na obetimi so do wano atomu bi join live on Facebook na odo comments no views no ababe go na makenkan e de amao enche I'll be reverting to messages ade aba na amanfo nso ate onsemo a what they to your questions are one contributions are what they eba ye ECG a kwan be ne fa ECG mfa so to ensure efficiency we na many my colleagues didn't come over lunch na ye di ECG nkomo ya eno owika say kabe fine pa sanka every region bia wo ne service provider say bia ba Greater Accra a different company and they provide electricity or Greater Accra Okwa Ashanti region, a different company. Anka onu susu se ebeboa, and I have been wondering how ebeboa because at the end of the day, omu nyina beje free grid code na diaba. Would that mean say each company say ekobane sa ebeye a separate investment into lines or they power ne free grid code, and by that alone we can be sure say some efficiency will be injected.
A school of thought, Dodo Nadrin say ECG Esododo, right? In a catchment area and any consumption, Esododo, or no consume almost or even above 80% of power generated.
Yeah.
In the case, sometimes a man into me and proper supervision. And the old boniana only boning teaching getting get betima improve on supervision ama obi ahwe but me na me so many school of thought on the yarding, but I've observed that netco when ECG mean are separate but they are all making losses. So sometimes it's not about having many distribution companies across original distribution companies. It's about having the right leaders, and politicians now say because Abribia no be interfere whether you like it or you don't interfere. That is one. But you're privatizing, I think that in the long run, say basi jitum Ghana for jitum say privatize, because that is why I believe that we need to run some of these perception service or social impact assessment service to actually understand say Ghana for ye jetum na engine tum. But say jitum say privatize, I think in the long run you hear a liberalized system. We need to have certain system dynamics like you build certain models allow ama you liberalize the distribution of power in Ghana. Because ECG or monopoly, right? Only competitor here, and because of any competitor here, no inefficiencies kwano imina mitia. So inefficiencies una utia ne. So can you do upemita ubre ansana wanya? Imagine sanko competitor. Abibia nanko very fast because oma obimbe jun training some. Look at what is happening in the telecommunication sector. Ne upe prepaid for the broadband. Omo buy within the shortest 3 days next. Ya fix because wanyam tema for Babaji. Indeed, that is how I also think that the distribution of power must also be liberalized. You try your best to liberalize the generation of power. You your private players in the generation, but distribution, in the long run, they say to be privatizing ECG because they say we need to also liberalize it to get other players on board and make sure that the industry is very, very competitive. And I believe that certain competition is used to the benefit of the final end user and I say the consumer of power, because competition will boost efficiency. Will be very innovative ways to cut costs because we do the iron talk. And say when the liberalization now, I think that it will help us a lot to ensure that particular efficiency and then transfer of efficiency to the end user of power. There's about for many distribution across the country in the netco and ECG. And I mean, you say Nsiah ebefa because now was arguing the pass Nsiah from every region behind because ECG new area no so Ashanti region say also many there, but I'm sure netco that mismanagement there and mismanagement at ECG. I think that Nsiah crying for.
But to the extent that yeshichimuna a private people na a render service na. Said the issue of managerial inefficiencies will be addressed.
I think that, but private person also be on just saying funding kitwa depending on scope also be injected into ECG to make the dividends. The way in kitwa mana and I say micro aspect, you know, but all depends on the process of this particular privatization and the kind of private person or partner government, and also the ECG CEA. So not the nice one, now you profile this particular company now, also ability and capacity now. I think that you need to make this common later. It depends on government's inclusivity with technical person in the media and everybody. Say they need the right decision.
Finally, how do we avoid another PDS scandal?
We must be very transparent with respect to information flow, very transparent with Ghanaians, right? We must be very participatory on board. And it also means inclusivity, right? And we must be honest as people. Okay, PDS, for example, the entire PDS, you know, Antimi and Kotru is one. Miracle 51%, and then the African group. I don't even call it the Ghanaian group because there was an Angolan as part of it. The African group. Or more agreement, and say they were supposed to give certain guarantees, right? But here could be actually insurance guarantee, you know. You see a free Ghana, you see a later free Qatar. You could call a risk assessment, no insurance guarantee, you know, was not that on NISA capacity, no, right? On NISA capacity, no, it was very problematic. We had to cancel that particular deal. They go through. So say call. Yanko PDS any ba kono ekoye na e wo se yema obia ehu process no se ne sha se ni se ne kowie partners are no no information flow be here efasa partners no e wo se ni especially media, you must know them. Why ne ba be company no why ne ba ni sika se na ode ba or the say no kire ne bank ne hwan ne bank ne sika esen say ho kire ya betumi, all these things must be made available, and that is good information flow. Woman nipa no hu de ekoso a onim se look ready na ode ko but all this busy na onim I think, and one reason why Ghanaians kick against PBS was the lack of information flow. Ntina Ghana for no onim de ekoso, and I quite remember we go say see ba ko baba shop, like there's this argument that
so or a baba
or something like that. So I think that transparent information and information flow are very, very critical to having a better at the end of the day, you know, it must be very participatory. Same here, Oman Paminika say we are building consensus, and that is why I think that we need a social impact assessment survey or any perception survey. It was a year idea Ghana food in Ajitum. Okay. Right? Apart from say idea Ghana food in Ajitum, no, it was so big account. No, you become a big account, and I was say Okasa with the information now the man no real time information. Manu who say basa na you know Ajitum na say me kwa obi Ajitum, but so the BBC na ya start privatization. Yeah, Rebecca say I supported entirely because I've always mentioned privatization. But in the long run, say basa nipa na company de kwa command no. The information in your papa, we will come here again and kick against it. You look at no so yes, so private person here, just let us know the company, the capacity and ability, and if it's genuine and good, Ghanaians will support it. If it is not, Ghanaians will kick against it because we are going to serve the interests of Ghanaians.